and gentlemen, it is 1:30 and we will call the meeting to order. And we will begin by a roll call. Let's please start with Commissioner Julie Smith.
Commissioner Julie Smith, present.
Kevin Ludlow, present.
Edward Sharkey, present.
William Smith, present.
Tina Stanford.
Christina Hernandez, present. Gail Howard, present. Ellen Alexander, present. Lisa Elovich, present.
And our staff, our Department of Corrections and Community Supervision staff present.
Terry Tracy, counsel to the board.
Melissa Brandon Ruffin, assistant to Cheryl Stanford.
Jenna Sarvis, Excelsior Fellow.
Rico Fracado.
Barbara Tobin, parole officer, interstate.
Felix Rosen, Bureau Chief, Interstate.
And Laura Colucci is our videographer, and she is also present. Excused absent for today's meeting are Commissioners Ferguson, Thompson, and Krangle. We have no public attendees today. Has everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes of November 17th, 2014? And if you have, do you have any recommended corrections? I would like to add the name of Ms. Colucci to our minutes. Ms. Colucci, what's your official title?
It's a long one.
Is it?
It's audio-visual production training specialist.
Thank you. That's the only thing that I saw after a first look at the minutes. Is there anything else? And if there isn't, is there a motion to accept the minutes with any necessary corrections?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you. Mr. Smith makes the motion to accept the minutes with any necessary corrections. Is there a second?
A second.
Okay. Second by Commissioner Alexander. Are there any other questions or discussions? Okay. All in favor of accepting the minutes with the necessary corrections, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any abstentions by the commissioners who were not present at last month's meeting, which Commissioner Sharkey, Commissioner Coppola. Thank you, and the motion is carried. All right. The first item of old business is our board training. I've been promising to try to get us some good training, and we've got a lot of good topics to work on in the coming year. The first of which that you have all indicated, at least at the last board meeting, that you were interested in is on board actions. So Steve Philbrick is going to work very closely with Tim O'Brien to do a good training for us on board actions. I'd like to try to get it in before the end of this year, because as I said, we've got some other good ones lined up on sex offenders and their issues with the board, as well as immigration. We've got a lot of things that we can train on together. And they are available to do this training before the end of the year. And since we don't have boards next week and the week after, I thought if we could squeeze this one in, it would be good. The way I envision it, and I'll tell you how I described it to them. A session lasting approximately 3.5 to 4 hours, with a lunch break if we do it in the morning, or short breaks if we do it in the afternoon, that covers each type of action. What typically triggers each, how they are prepared, what should be attached, what our options are in response, and what are the consequences of the range of options that we can choose. And I've been collecting samples of board actions that I personally have questioned, or that some of you have questioned, that we can use as, real live examples for discussion purposes. So I'll share them with Mr. Philbrick, Attorney Philbrick, and Tim O'Brien, so that they can be prepared to really have a good dialogue with us about it. In any event, they are available next Monday in the morning, next Tuesday in the morning, and the Friday after Christmas. And they don't give a specific time for that. Now, I personally would rather do it at the beginning of the week because, The day after Christmas, I don't know how many of us may be taking that as a holiday, but if we could get it in on Monday or Tuesday, and then we still have Christmas Eve, which would be the next day, the 24th, and of course we wouldn't schedule it on the holiday in any event. So I'm interested in how many of you would be available for the training on the Monday or Tuesday, and if we could pick one of those 2 days, it would be a morning training, and depending on a start time, we might take a little break, a half-hour break, just to get some sandwiches or whatever we bring to eat if you want to order in, because we're going to do this at your home offices. So you can be in your home office. You don't have to travel for this other than to go to the office and then tune in. We'll try to make sure all the bridges are good, the connections are good, and not sure yet if we're going to be able to get it recorded. If we can't get it recorded, then we'll do a part 2. And for the people that were unable to attend this one, we'll do it again. Who, by show of hands, would prefer to do this next Monday morning? Okay.
How long will it last?
3.5 to 4 hours.
It starts at what time?
Well, we could start at 10. That way, it's not first thing in the morning, and because it's pushing into the lunch hour, that's why I figured if we could have 20 minutes or so that we could break and get sandwiches, or we could work right through, but just to let you know, there'll be time for you to go to the bathroom or get some food, and then we'll just work right through lunch. So.
I have something Monday afternoon, so if it spills into it, I won't be able to do it.
Okay. So if we started at 9 or 10, or even if you couldn't stay for the whole thing.
On by one?
Yeah. And that's the other thing too. I mean, you're not going to be chained to your desk. So if you had to leave early, as long as you get the benefit of the first part of it, get to ask some good questions, get to offer some concerns, I think the dialogue would still be good and the training would still be good.
And probably the greater the variety of board members from around the state, the better, because from what I've heard, paperwork is processed sometimes differently in various portions of the state, so having you all there to participate.
I would prefer Tuesday than Monday.
Okay. Well, it looks like now, okay, by show of hands, Tuesday? Okay. So no takers for Tuesday. A couple takers for Monday.
I'll do it. I mean, I just have an appointment that I have to try and schedule.
So how many again for Monday? I could do either one, so I raise my hand for both. Okay, well, let's go with Monday. Let's go with Monday. Now, does it matter to you if we say a 9:30 start, or do you rather go with 10? Have any preference there?
I would rather start early.
Okay,
That's fine. 'Cause I
Okay.
get done.
9 o'clock.
okay. So let's say 9 o'clock start on Monday. And again, if you're unable to participate, I'd like Talissa let Talissa know if you're unable to participate. Of course, we'll send out the notice of this training to the other board members who aren't here, and they may participate. But if you're unable to participate, we'd like to know who isn't able so that we can schedule a part 2 for you, or if we are lucky enough to get it recorded, get you a recording. And then again, just like we said at last month's meeting, if you have any issues, any cases that come across your desk this week even, that, trouble you, cause you to question, make a copy of it, scan it, and get it to Talissa, and we'll include that in the packet of sample cases to discuss. Okay? And then we'll start to schedule the next one after that, which probably will be on sex offender conditions and issues related to the board. Okay, the next item is our 2015 board business meetings. Because we're small now, and I don't know how long that condition will exist, and because we've already seen fit not to schedule board meetings for every month in 2015, I would like to make all the meetings mandatory. Now, having said that, if you have a reason why you must be excused, of course I'm going to honor that, but I would like you to formally request it so that I can formally excuse you. But what came up last month in terms of our schedule was that Rosh Hashanah will fall, the first full day of Rosh Hashanah will be September 14th, which was in our schedule for a board meeting date. I'm happy to move that meeting date to the following Monday, the 21st, and if no one has any objection to that, then we're going to correct our schedule because we have to give public notice of our calendar. We do that through our public information officers, and if there aren't any objections, we will continue to have a meeting in September because well, and I'm trying to remember if I gave myself an option. We will meet in September. It will just not be the 14th. It would be the 21st. Okay? So if that's okay with everybody, then that's what we'll do. So we'll change the schedule. We'll get the new schedule out. Also, in November, when I looked and I saw that in the schedule that had been presented, there's no board meeting in October, there's no board meeting in November, but there is one in December. While I love to see you all at the holidays, sometimes the holidays can be overwhelming with get-togethers and blah, blah, blah. So I'm thinking maybe instead of meeting in December, we should meet in November and then not have a meeting in December. And again, who knows from one year to the next which month is going to be worse weather-wise. But it seems like we got harder weather in November than in December. But if you think we might do better to meet in November, avoiding the holiday weeks, of course, and I had November 16th as a possibility. Meet in November and then cancel December. So what do you think about that? Is there any comment, any concerns doing it that way?
The only question I had, what if like you're on vacation that week?
Well, then we're just going to honor your vacation just as if, otherwise. Because I basically excuse everyone that's on vacation. I mean, at that point, when I've already approved the vacation, I just assume if, there's a meeting falls on that week, then you will be excused.
You're not going to catch anything that weekend.
So we've got a no board meeting in January or February. Our next board meeting after today will be March 16th, and then April 13th, May 11th, June 15th, July 20th, August 17th, September 21st, no board meeting in October, a board meeting November 16th, and no board meeting in December. And we'll send this out. Of course, as usual, if anything comes up, any concerns, anything we've missed, send us a note and we'll talk about it again when we meet again. All right. Our Public Information Office has asked that in light of new business cards that are coming out, that we review a list of our names and numbers. If you have a phone number that you want listed, perhaps the main office number for your home office, that you indicate that. You have the option for 2 numbers if you wish on your personal business cards, and also the email. Now, it occurs to me some of you have more than one email. I assume if someone uses either one, you're getting it. But maybe it's time to tell docs just to eliminate one, so that you don't have 2-3 emails out there for one person. And I think there's maybe a handful of you are in that category. So I know that there is one email address listed for each of us on there. If that email you know to be a good email, a good docs email for you, then anything other than that, with your permission, I'll tell docs to eliminate from their system. But if you like the one that's not listed, if you would just note that on that form that's coming around, we'd appreciate it. And they're going to submit that soon for the business cards, so we'll try to get that information back to her today, if possible. If we can get it all done today, capture the couple people that aren't here, we'll get it back to them before the end of the week, and then we'll be good on new business cards. New business, 2015-2016 budget. As you will hear, our wonderful accreditation committee has been working very hard to make sure we're in good preparation for our accreditation, which will come around next year. One of the items was some discussion on the record about the budget. And so I just want to share a couple of things with you regarding the upcoming 2015-2016 budget. Every year, the executive department, the director of the budget, issues what's called a call letter to the agencies. And I just want to share a couple of highlights from this call letter. And it's directed to all the agency commissioners. New York's fiscal standing has dramatically improved over the past 4 years. The results for New Yorkers have been tremendous. The number of private sector jobs is at an all-time high after 21 consecutive months of job growth, the state's longest streak on record since at least 1990. Unemployment is at the lowest level since November 2008, and through the governor's Startup New York program, businesses have an opportunity to begin or expand operations in the state tax-free. Taxes are down across the board. State support for schools is at record levels, and accountability has been brought to the forefront. We continue to restructure our health care delivery system to improve health outcomes at significantly lower costs. To maintain this growth and improvement, all agencies are directed to submit budget requests for the 2015-2016 state operations and aid to localities that assume zero growth for 2014 and 15 cash ceilings. And of course, DOC submits within its budget the Board of Parole's budget. And if I'm not mistaken, the only thing that's different in our budget is mandatory raises. So our budget is going to be a little over $100,000 higher than it was in 14-15, going into 15-16 to capture those raises. And if there should be some legislative action that would affect our salaries, that would be built in, of course, as well. So that is my budget update. Now I'd like to move on to a brief report from our accreditation committee, being headed by our Commissioner Ellen Alexander, with support, of course, continued support and assistance from Commissioner Hernandez, who's done such a wonderful job with it over the years, and getting great assistance from our fellow Jenna Sarvis.
Actually, I think Janet deserves really the lion's share of credit. I met with her this morning, and she made remarkable progress last week. We met with the chair. Terry Tracy has graciously agreed to be the legal advisor for this process, so we have a really good team in place. This Wednesday, Jen gets to meet with Bob Kennedy, who I think was in charge of accreditation and maybe has moved on to a new position in the agency, but because Jenna has worked in so many different parts of docs already, she knows the players way better than I do, and Bob is going to give her a lot of solid advice this week. I thought I'd just bring up one standard which Jenna and I were struggling with this morning, because I think my recollection is that some commissioners went to meet with some agencies back in 2012 and maybe 2013, and if we have any information for that, I think it would comply with that standard very well. The standard is that the parole authority participates directly or in discussion through the agency of which it may be a part. So I believe, if I still remember my legal background, I think we could say that anything that DOCS did would count for us, because we are part of DOCS now, in federal, state, and regional criminal justice planning efforts. So I know that, I believe that maybe some people went to meet with Exodus in a couple of years, and we don't have any evidence of that in the file, and that might be helpful. What we're using right now is the Reentry Services statewide handbook, and it seems to be a little thin on what the standard is. So I thought maybe all of you might have an idea or may have participated in.
Well, a question for that is, you're looking for meetings that we've had in 2014?
Well, 2012, 2013, 2014. Reset?
Okay. I was thinking that the reset project, I mean, that has been both a departmental initiative, and then as you know, within that, the Board of Parole, like all the other units that are involved, have met with a number of individuals. I know that I have not been party to those meetings, but I know that there have been meetings with other stakeholders in the criminal justice community, and I would think that that might work towards satisfying that. I know I participated in some of those meetings, as have Stephen Philbrick, who's deputy counsel, and there have been other department staff employees. Jenna, you were at these meetings as well, so I think that might get us longer for that kind of stuff. 14.
And I think I do have information regarding when we met with Exodus in November 2012, and then I went to a recent event at Exodus on behalf of the board. And then I don't remember what year it was that we went to the Fortune Society. Does anybody remember? Was that 2011 or 2012?
It might be 2011, because I believe I have that
Okay.
in here from 2011. So I think I'm worried about 2012.
Okay.
but Perhaps you have the answer.
And yeah, maybe I'll have to go back and think about, and look at my journal and see what we've done.
So just on a go-forward basis, if there are times when you are meeting, even with your local parole office, those sorts of things, anything you can document would help a number of these standards, and we would certainly appreciate that help.
County bar CLEs. I have plenty of it.
Okay.
Does that fit in the window that you're looking at?
That would fit into our training requirements. We're all subject to 40 hours a year of training, so certainly county bar records would fit within that training. In the past, we've zeroed in on 2 commissioners and just used their training records to satisfy it, but on a go-forward basis, they want to do something else, so certainly I would appreciate any information you all have.
Alan, what, can you read that standard again for us?
Sure.
Give the number as well, please.
Sure, it's 1023,
1023.
and it says that the parole authority participates directly or in discussion through the agency of which it may be a part in federal, state, and regional criminal justice planning efforts.
You know, what I'm thinking about is also the extent to which the board was involved, and Bill, you can speak to this, back in 2012 in the development of the Parole Board Criminal History Report and the Parole Board Report, because that is something that is used not just for decision making, but it also goes out to the field and is used by the parole officers in the field for supervision purposes.
Yeah, I think that's excellent.
And with
Yeah.
that,
Yeah, and that counts, that's of many hours.
and that's why I'm asking, because you guys were very much involved with that.
Both of those documents took probably 20 hours or so.
Yeah, because we had
Work to do.
you and I and Ellen, and who was the other one that was on the parole board report?
Mark, you were on that.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
you
we
met
went to all the
DCJS
meetings.
folks? You met with
All
folks from
over.
DCJS? And
All
folks
over.
from, I think that would be a very good thing to include.
So if you don't have, I know you have it. You have
I have
everything.
it.
You're
I have my
the
meetings.
historian for the board with the documentation to back it up. So if you could find emails or agendas from meetings from 2012 particularly, because that seems to be the year we might have a paucity of records of this type of work.
I don't know how we retrieve those 2012 emails. I can't retrieve them 2 weeks ago.
No, that's true, but he probably has hard copies.
In the back of my
He probably
in the back of my ballot.
future.
I probably have enough.
No, it just seems that we do so much and we forget about
We
how
have the
much we're
meetings.
involved in.
It's like we went to meetings, and I have the meeting dates and.
Oh, you do.
That was back then, 2012, when we met with Lakeview.
Yeah, that's another one.
That's another
Wow,
one.
that's, we redid the shop requirements basically, and that was the
We had
chair and
reformulate the packets.
Okay,
that we
good.
received. I mean, we've said, I know that I sat next to her at least one time. We're invited to your incident. I know one time we did specifically, I think it was just you and I that time, the last time I remember.
If you have any documentation from bureau meetings, that would be awesome.
I have one from 2014.
That would be great.
Good.
Terrific.
Good.
And then if you think of anything after the meeting today, please share it with Ellen. You know?
Kevin and I did a tech, and remember we did the
With Pat Fitzmaurice.
3 years ago.
With Pat Fitzmaurice, we're working on that.
Okay. So Ellen's making notes, I've got notes, and any kind of documentation you can share to support, it just has to be added to our folders for that year. Okay, is there anything else?
Yeah, I just use this as an example. I may be trying to find some of the other standards, but it's amazing what we all can accomplish when we put our mind to it. So thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. And thank you, Jenna, for your help, because she's in the office every day pulling it together. So thank you. All right, the next item, it has to do with victim impact meetings and confidentiality as general propositions. Of course, the transcript of those meetings are made available at the panel that's conducting the interviews of the individual in question. And we've had some concerns in the recent past that first, that perhaps the victims or the family representatives of the victims, the agents of the family who are giving those statements by phone or in person, that they're not coming as well prepared as they could be, knowing what to expect, especially if they're doing it for the first time, or what the outcome will be of they're making this effort. Just logistically understanding the way things work. Commissioner Ferguson has graciously agreed to try to work with me and Janet Kopash, who oversees the Victim Services Unit, and trying to help them develop better letters to get a lot of information out to people so that they know what to expect and they come prepared accurately and appropriately, and so that questions that they might have are answered even before they appear, and that we have sort of a general script to give to everyone so that no one person gets more or less information based on the commissioner who they happen to be interacting with that day. Another concern that's surfaced recently is that in our attempt to be compassionate, as we all are, sometimes we may say things on the record during the course of the meeting which might forecast an opinion on whether this person is appropriate to be released or not, based on the seriousness of the offense or the impact on the victim. And so just a reminder that we have to be very careful that this is their opportunity to make their feelings known, and that our feelings are less germane, and it could be particularly troublesome if we end up on that panel that we've almost forecast our opinion on whether or not this person should be released based on all the factors that we have to consider. So we have to be very careful about the record that we create and how we interact with them, even in our best efforts to be compassionate. So if anybody has any thoughts on this, any concerns that they've seen in transcripts that they've reviewed, we're not going to talk about any particular case, of course, because of the next item, which is confidentiality. But if Terry has any advice, general advice he can give, or any of you have any thoughts, concerns from transcripts that you've read, now might be a time to talk about it a little bit. Again, keeping confidential the type of case it was, or the name of the offender, or the name of the victim that was presented.
I actually would like to talk about that in executive session.
Okay, so we can talk about it more at that point. Anything anyone wants to say on the record now? Otherwise?
Can I ask a question? Are you talking about how we can work the interview with the victims? We're talking about the process and things like that.
Both.
Well, I just have a question because this came up this week in two cases. My understanding is that the victim statement is put together in a transcript, and then it is emailed to the facility SRC. Am I correct there? Sorry.
That's how we used to do it, it was sent to the board member and to the facility.
Even now, is it emailed to the facility?
I'm not in the unit anymore, so I'm not sure.
I forgot, I'm sorry.
how it's being
I think it is. I think, because we had one that was November, very recent, just before Thanksgiving, so a little bit of an issue there. You might have seen Commissioner Smith's post-board report. Could have been a big problem. But anyway, so the other question that came up was, when they're emailing them, they have no ability to scan in letters that are given or pictures. And a lot of, at least that I've done, when they give a letter, they say, well, here I read it, but I also like included, or something from a family member who could come, or pictures of the victim sometimes. I often take that and have that sent to the victim impact unit. Well, if they're getting an email, how do we know that those pictures and those other documents are getting into the file? And I think it would be pretty unfair to the victims if they really wanted it included, that if at the time of the interview we saw a we would not know. If it was a victim impact statement done by Commissioner Hernandez, how would I know that there was a picture that didn't wind up there? So I just want to make sure they're getting in the file, because we had one that wasn't, and if it's being emailed, I don't know what the process is.
I don't know how the other offices do them, but I know in the Albany office we have a scanner, and actually during my victim impact meetings, if they had pictures, I've actually during the meetings given them to Jessica. She has scanned them. Victim impact is right there, and they hand them the copy. And I think Barb has been there when I've done that, when she was in the unit. So I make sure that I get what they want there, and I make sure the victim impact has it at that time
But you can physically do it.
I can physically do it, so I don't know what the other offices do. That's what we do in Albany.
If we could, no, I'm not saying what we do. I'm talking about. Well, I know that we send them, and Bill, I think, would agree. We give them to Pam and say, Pam, can you please send this right away to Victim Services, so it gets into this file, and then she'll use not only a letter, but she also cites, the case so that it doesn't get confused, puts it together. What I'm saying is, how do we know that? I just want to make sure that we check to make sure that those pictures or letters or whatever else that is a hard copy outside transcript is getting into the folder, because we did have one this week that there was a little bit of a follow-up, and then the other issue came up where they don't get the scanned, or they don't get scans and pictures or anything else. They only get the transcript in the email. So where are the hard copies? Where's that going? It must come somehow. I just want to make sure that they're getting in the file, that's all.
Okay,
what
thank
their
you.
process from Victim Services is. I know what we do with them, but we don't know what happens after that. And how would we know? If I was looking at one of Commissioner Elvich's, I would know that there was supposed to be a picture included in there. That's all. I think that if somebody takes the time and they ask to have it included, we definitely should do everything we can to make sure it's included.
Should that not be entrusted to the stenographer? That's the stenographer's role, is to maintain the record and any exhibits to be submitted therewith.
I think that they email too.
I give any submissions to the stenographer.
I give them.
That's the stenographer's role, to maintain the record and any exhibits that would attach.
But
Is it not? If you give it to a third party, you're diluting the process.
I'm giving
aren't
it
you?
directly to victim impact, trusting
When they're there.
Right. I
When they're there.
ensure that they're getting in.
As I understand the question, I'm sitting here and I'm hearing the same thing. We may give it to someone. I think the real issue is we need to work out what's appropriate, who we give it to, number one. But the other thing is, if it gets to victim impact, does victim impact have a way and a methodology of getting it to the facility? Because that's what I keep hearing everybody say.
That's the most important.
Right.
And that can't be answered here. That's a question that we have to pose.
It used to happen.
I know, this one case that I did, because when I got the report, I saw the documents, so I sent in the exhibit notations, were not part of that packet.
But I'm saying, once we raise that question, and it's a very good, because we don't know the processes of another unit outside of ours. We really don't. That is a good question that we could pose.
And I will
And
pose
that's
it.
what I keep hearing.
And I will pose it.
That's really what you're saying.
That's what I was
That's
asking.
one of your-
I knew we weren't going to get the answer. That's why I'm asking.
And I guess I'm thinking,
I was hoping Barbara would know that, since she's the one.
And on the other half of that question, since we appear to be doing different things, depending on the location we were at, what is the appropriate process for getting those things that the victim's family or the victim gives you to victim impact? Because I've been doing the same thing out in Nassau and Suffolk. I give it to the stenographer. That's what I've been doing.
We trust the stenographer to provide an accurate record. Why would you deviate from that with an exhibit? I don't understand.
Well, I guess the only exception would be if someone from Victim Services is sitting right there, since ultimately they transmit it from the stenographer to the facility, whatever the minutes are. They transmit that. Goes to Victim Impact. From Victim Impact, the minutes go to the facility. I would assume it would be the same with any attachments. But again, we have to find out and we have to make sure. But this is again another example of how we just need to make sure that we're working as collaboratively and effectively with our partners within DOCS to make sure that when that interview takes place, everything we need to have, everything we're supposed to have, we have. And the only way we can do that is if we ask these questions in dialogue between each other to see what's really happening. Okay? So I'll ask the question, and hopefully I'll have some good answers for you when we meet again in March. Moving forward in our agenda, we're on to correspondence, announcements, and invitations. And at this point, we want to present a plaque. And so I'll ask Barbara Tobin to please come forward. Now, Ms. Tobin's time with Victim Services and with the Division of Parole is longer than mine. I came to the Board of Parole the summer of 2013, and you served with the Division of Parole as a parole officer since when?
2004.
2004. And exclusively working with Victim Services since when?
2004.
2004. Wow. So you've been permanently assigned there for your whole
For the most
tenure.
part. I was in the field for 1 year, but I was in the victim unit for 9.
Okay. It's hard work. I mean, all of us have had the experience now of sitting with victims, helping them through our part of the process. And she has done this as a professional, efficiently and compassionately for all these years. And she's just recently been assigned to Interstate. Is that correct?
Yes.
And so we thought we would be remiss not to say thank you for all the years of service that you've provided working with victims directly with the board, with your excellence, with your compassion in doing so, and that you're missed from those meetings now. But we're glad that you're still a part of the DOCS family and that we get to see you whenever we can, and for the example that you set for people who will come behind you. So I'm going to present this plaque to you from the Board of Parole. It says, it's got the seal of the great state of New York, Excelsior underneath, presented to Barbara Tobin in recognition of your professionalism and dedication to the New York State Parole Board, dated 2014. And it also has the New York State Board of Parole seal on it as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Barb.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Here's your box as well. And we can all shake your hand. We're almost done. All right. With that would conclude our business for the public session of our meeting. I'd be happy to entertain a motion to move into executive session to discuss matters of a confidential nature that require our action. Okay, is there a second? All in favor of going into executive session? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Okay, that motion is carried. We're into executive session.
Thank you.